And then just a quick word on Monaghan against Dublin on Saturday night. Monaghan going to town in that first half, 9 points clear, and
Mm.
eventually I think Dublin got 1-7 to more or less a point, we'll say, in the last 16 minutes. What, like from your point of view, what did Monaghan do so well? What did Dublin do so bad? And what flipped the game around?
Wasn't watching it closely, Shane. I did sort of watch it, nursing a wee baby, but it seems to affect a lot of teams. A little bit of white line fever against Dublin that you can, but at the start you can get a real run on them and bring a brilliant energy and all the rest. But Dublin seemed to settle, and then the impact of their substitutes, like you're bringing on Paul Mannion, he transforms a forward line anyway. Um, and then you make it a bit jittery. I mean, the goal from Kevin McManaman came out of nothing really. We top down, another day that just goes another direction and away up the field that ball goes. Uh, but teams do fit. Certainly, Dublin, whatever about their fitness, like the last 15 minutes, like, if there's any team that can match them over that period, it's yet to be seen. Because they're so strong and they finish so strong and their key men just get going. And the worrying thing is that Monaghan maybe, and Banty kind of does this, like he plays his best team in every game. Now Fintan Kelly and Colin Walsh are still to come back from injury in that team, but they were playing a very strong team, and Dublin have an embarrassment of riches to come back in. Jack McCaffrey, Conor Callaghan, and so on.
Do you get the sense that things are going well under Banty, that he's well received? I had Kevin Nolan on the other day, the former Dublin footballer, and he was suggesting that the kind of much heralded signing of Ray Boyne as statsman, that he wasn't even sure that he was doing all that much so far. But as an overall point, you get the sense that this has been well received and that Monaghan haven't maxed out previously and that they can kick on.
I, I'm always totally allergic to this phrase of a team in transition. I think that's always total BS. You can only ever enter the competitions you're in, and that's your team, and you get on with it. But this idea of saying, "Oh, we're in transition," is only a ruse for some managers to buy themselves time or sympathy or whatever. When Banty went in, you know, Banty is a very personable, front of house type fella. Like he was taking Cardiff. We were having a conversation actually last year, he and I, about backroom teams and the number and the kind of levels of staffing that he would have had for his teams. He likes to keep it very tight, which is good. But he was telling me about being overcard off his own club, and he says one of the better things that he felt about the year or 2 years that he was over them is he actually got a number of senior players sorted out with their mortgages and their own personal lives, which kind of shows you his strength. Like he's a people person, he's very practical, and he looks out for people in their lives, right? So it's the old saying: a manager, players don't care what you know until they know that you care. With Banty, like with Monaghan players, he just thinks there's nothing like that. Like that's his greatest calling in life. Of all the things that he has done, he's never been more proud to be the Monaghan manager, and he's very keen on keeping a backroom tight, which is good as long as you have the right people. And I just wouldn't imagine that Seamus is taking a pile of the training. I would say that is almost exclusively the preserve of Peter Donnelly physically and Conor Laverty tactically, and then you got John Devine in as the coach, the goalkeeping coach. Like Conor Laverty's football brain is, there's so much to be mined from that. He's an obsessive, uh, and he is so switched on to what players want, how players respond. He was in with Derry last year before the championship, and between him and Kieran Mina, they sort of really gave him a huge lift, and the Derry players were extremely pleased with his input. So he's obviously a top-notch coach. Peter Donnelly, well, I mean, it speaks for itself. Like the Throne players were gutted when he left, and Ulster Rugby don't headhunt duds either. And John Devine too. You know, how you coach Paul Rory Bagan, I have no idea. But Yeah, look, why wouldn't Monaghan make another push? Why wouldn't they just be just as competitive as they have been under Monarchy?
Do you see any reason why Tyrone's physical conditioning would go backwards at all because they don't have Peter Donnelly? And like, have you noticed anything about Monaghan yet, or is it a bit too early to say about that physically?
These boys, like, I mean, you're asking me about physical conditioning, and a lot of those Tyrone players were kind of hanging about the pavilion before the game and after the game yesterday. Like, these people are just an outrageous nick. Like, I mean, how good can you be? Like, when you're looking at, say, Matty and Richie Dunn and Paddy Hampshire and Declan McClure and all these fellas walking around just in their civvies. Like, there's no such thing as off season for these fellas. Uh, so how do I measure it? You can only see what you're seeing. You say what you're seeing in front of your eyes. Tyrone certainly finished a lot stronger than Kerry yesterday. They have Johnny Davis, who was previously with Ulster Rugby, whose sister is with Ulster Rugby, and who's another sister, Julie, who has been involved with Kieran McGeeney teams going back to his involvement with Kildare, and now she's been in with the Armagh Academy for years. And Armagh are certainly not lacking anything in physicality. If you'd have seen the way they played Kildare on Saturday night, so he'd be well switched on. The feedback I've been getting from some Tyrone players is they're actually been blown away with Johnny Davis and his interest in their injury history, which is perhaps something that maybe in the GA we don't care or don't really maybe look into. The fact is that maybe one hamstring injury can offset another problem that you might have with your hip. It's an interesting theory. It sounds interesting anyway, and all the players have been very impressed with his impact so far. So I don't think they're going to lose an awful deal that way, even though people were kind of upset and thrown when it happened. But people move on and people find other jobs in life. There's not much you can do about it.
Thanks for watching Our Game. Don't forget to like and share the videos, and if you're new to the channel, hit subscribe.